The HFY had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. No species had ever survived their wrath. No planet had ever been spared from their conquest. They were not just warriors. They were apex predators, designed for war, their bodies adapted to survive the harshest environments, their minds wired for destruction. Their warships were massive, armed with energy cannons that could tear moons apart, and their soldiers were nearly unstoppable, regenerating from injuries that would have killed any other creature. Civilizations that resisted them were erased, their planets burned to nothing but ashes. To the HFY, war was not just conquest, it was their way of life. And now, their next target was Earth. A small, insignificant world in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Their fleet moved swiftly, hundreds of warships breaking through the darkness of space, confident that this would be yet another routine extermination. But as they reached the Sol system, something felt different. There was no desperate pleading, no terrified messages of surrender. The humans did not beg for mercy like others had. Instead, they prepared for war. The first attack came over Mars, where the HFY expected an easy battle. But what they found instead was resistance. Human warships, though smaller and technologically behind, moved with a speed and precision that was unheard of. Their ships wove between enemy fire, striking weak points the HFY had never even considered vulnerable. The HFY had fought thousands of species before, but none had fought like this. Humans did not fight defensively. They did not retreat. They attacked with everything they had, using unconventional tactics that left the HFY forces in chaos. They weaponized asteroids, detonated nuclear warheads at close range, and even sacrificed entire ships just to take down HFY dreadnoughts. It was madness, but it was effective. For the first time in their history, the HFY lost a battle. Their generals, who had never known defeat, were forced to retreat from Mars, leaving behind burning wreckage and shattered pride. They told themselves it was just an anomaly, that the humans had been lucky. But deep inside, a new feeling began to grow within the HFY Empire: fear. And fear was something they had never experienced before. The humans did not stop. They studied their enemies, learning from every battle, every mistake. Within days, they had adapted, using captured HFY technology to improve their own weapons. They modified their ships with armor designed to withstand HFY energy weapons, developed AI-driven targeting systems, and unleashed cyber attacks that shut down enemy communications. The HFY had always believed themselves to be the most advanced species in the galaxy, but the humans evolved faster than any enemy they had ever faced. Every strategy the HFY used was countered. Every weakness they had was exploited. The humans fought with a brutality that was almost terrifying. On the ground, the battles were even worse. HFY warriors, who had slaughtered billions without resistance, suddenly found themselves outmatched. Human soldiers did not rely on brute force, they used strategy, deception, and relentless aggression. They set traps, turned entire cities into kill zones, and used guerrilla tactics that made every street, every building, a battlefield. The HFY, for the first time, found themselves on the defensive. The more they fought the humans, the stronger their enemy became. And then, the realization struck them, a horrifying truth they had never considered possible. They were no longer the galaxy's apex predators. The war had only just begun. The HFY did not understand defeat. They had never known failure, never faced an enemy that could fight back. Their kind had dominated the galaxy for so long that war had become nothing more than a formality, an extermination rather than a battle. Every species that had resisted them had been crushed, their planets reduced to ruins, their names erased from history. The HFY did not negotiate, they did not take prisoners, and they did not show mercy. When they returned to the Sol system after their humiliating loss over Mars, they came with a simple plan: destroy Earth completely. If humanity would not surrender, then they would cease to exist. The fleet they brought this time was unstoppable: thousands of warships, carriers filled with elite ground forces, orbital bombardment cannons that could reduce continents to dust. The HFY High Command had ordered the total annihilation of humanity, and nothing in the universe could prevent it. Or so they thought. The humans had no illusions about the power of their enemy. They had seen the destruction the Xarluk could bring, witnessed the devastation left behind on other worlds. They knew that this war was not just about survival, it was about proving that they were not prey. There would be no surrender, no retreat. Every man, woman, and child on Earth understood that this was a fight for the future of their species. And so, they prepared for war like never before. Scientists worked day and night, reverse engineering Xarlok technology, building new weapons, and modifying their defenses. Soldiers trained relentlessly, their tactics evolving with each passing day. Even civilians took up arms, ready to defend their homes if the enemy reached the surface. Humanity was not waiting for the Xarlok to come to them. They were preparing to meet them head-on. The battle began before the Xarlok fleet even reached Earth. Human warships launched a desperate first strike, ambushing the invaders near Jupiter's orbit. The Xarlok were caught off guard not because they hadn't expected resistance, but because they had never seen an enemy fight so recklessly, so ferociously. Human pilots used suicidal tactics, ramming their damaged ships into enemy command vessels. Stealth fighters hid in the shadows of moons, launching surprise attacks before vanishing into the void. The Xarlok suffered losses, but they kept pushing forward, their superior numbers and firepower slowly overwhelming the human defenders. The battle in space was brutal, but it was only the beginning. The real fight was waiting on the ground. When the Xarlok ground forces landed on Earth, they expected a swift and easy victory. They had conquered hundreds of worlds before, each one falling within days. But Earth was different. The moment they stepped onto the surface, they realized that this war was unlike anything they had faced. Every city had become a fortress. Every street, every building, every underground tunnel had been turned into a battlefield. Snipers hid in ruined skyscrapers, taking down Xarlok commanders with precise shots. Explosives were planted in roads and buildings, creating deadly traps at every turn. Human soldiers, wearing new enhanced combat armor, moved like ghosts, striking hard and disappearing before the enemy could react. The Xarlok were used to fighting armies on open battlefields, not this kind of war. They were hunters, but on Earth they had become the hunted. The longer the battle raged, the more desperate the Xarlok became. Their forces were being slaughtered in the cities, their war machines destroyed before they could even reach their targets. They tried to bomb human resistance fighters from orbit, but Earth's new electronic warfare systems disrupted their targeting, turning their own technology against them. They sent out elite squads to capture key locations, but human hackers infiltrated their communications, feeding them false information, leading them into ambushes. The Xarlok began to panic, something they had never felt before. This was not a species that was simply fighting for survival. This was a species that was adapting, learning, growing stronger with every battle. The turning point came when humanity unleashed their most dangerous weapon themselves. They had been studying the Xarlok, learning from their biology, their technology, their weaknesses. And now, they use that knowledge to evolve. Elite human soldiers, enhanced with genetic modifications and advanced cybernetic implants, launched a counterattack so brutal that the Xarlok forces began to break. These new warriors were stronger, faster, and more ruthless than anything the Xarlok had ever faced. They tore through enemy ranks with terrifying efficiency, wielding weapons designed to burn through Xarlok armor and crush their regenerative abilities. For the first time in history, the Xarlok were forced to retreat. Their generals, once arrogant and unshaken, now struggled to understand what had happened. They had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, but instead they had lost. They had underestimated humanity, thinking them to be just another weak species, another name to be erased from existence. But now they saw the truth. Humanity was not prey. They were something else entirely, something dangerous. The Xarlok left Earth's orbit in disgrace, their warships limping back into deep space. But they knew one thing for certain. This was not over. Because now, the humans were coming for them. The defeat at Earth shattered the Xarlok's belief in their own invincibility. Never before had they been forced to retreat, never had they lost a war zone they had invaded. It was more than just a battle lost, it was a wound to their pride, a crack in their dominance. But the Xarlok were not a species that accepted defeat. Their high command, enraged by the humiliation, demanded immediate retaliation. They would return with a force even greater. But deep inside, fear had taken root. Humanity had shown something terrifying they could adapt. And now, they were about to evolve in ways no one had ever imagined. The war was no longer about survival. For humans, it had become something much more, a mission to conquer their greatest enemy. Scientists worked relentlessly, pushing the limits of what was possible. They tore apart captured Xarlok technology, learning its secrets, integrating it with their own. Human weapons, once primitive compared to those of the Xarlok, were now advancing at an unnatural pace. Plasma rifles were being developed that could pierce through the regenerative bodies of the Xarlok warriors. Warships were being modified with energy shielding and enhanced propulsion. But technology alone was not enough. The real evolution was happening within the soldiers themselves. Elite military programs were created in secret, where soldiers were pushed beyond human limits. Genetic enhancements strengthened their bones, increased their reflexes, and gave them endurance far beyond what was natural. Neural implants connected them to AI-driven combat systems, allowing them to process battlefield information at impossible speeds. Exosuits made them stronger, faster, nearly unstoppable. These were not ordinary soldiers, they were weapons, designed to turn the tide of war. And when the Xarlok launched their next invasion, they were waiting. The second wave of Xarlok forces arrived with overwhelming numbers, their warships spreading across the solar system like a massive storm. This time, they did not just target Earth. They attacked Mars, the moons of Jupiter, every human colony they could reach. The goal was total annihilation. They did not expect the resistance to be so ferocious. Human fleets struck first, attacking with surgical precision. Their ships, now upgraded with Xarlok energy shields and hyper-advanced targeting systems, maneuvered through enemy lines with terrifying efficiency. AI-controlled drones swarmed the battlefield, disrupting the Xarlok's formations. And then came the ground forces. The enhanced soldiers, now faster and stronger than ever, turned every city into a death trap. The Xarlok had faced human troops before, but these were not the same weak beings they had fought months ago. These were something new, something terrifying. The battle for Mars was the first true test of humanity's evolution. Xarlok legions landed in massive numbers, expecting an easy planetary takeover. Instead, they found themselves hunted. Human strike teams moved like ghosts through the ruins, using advanced camouflage systems to become nearly invisible. Their weapons burned through Xarlok armor with precision, and their movements were too fast to track. The Xarlok had always relied on their superior strength and regeneration to win battles. But against these new human soldiers, their advantages meant nothing. Every wound was targeted with plasma rounds that cauterized instantly, preventing healing. Every strategy they used was countered before it could even be executed. The Xarlok, for the first time, were outmatched. Panic spread through the Xarlok forces. They tried adapting, modifying their battle plans, using more advanced weapons, deploying their own elite warriors. But humanity was evolving faster than they could react. The new cybernetic soldiers could process enemy movements in real time, countering attacks before they even happened. The AI-assisted warships predicted enemy fleet maneuvers with terrifying accuracy. Every battle was becoming one-sided, and for the first time in history, the Xarlok were losing a war. The high command of the Xarlok Empire realized the horrifying truth: humanity was not just a stubborn enemy. They were an accelerating threat. Every battle they fought, they learned. Every loss they suffered, they came back stronger. And now, they were no longer fighting to defend themselves. They were pushing forward. The humans were no longer just defending their planets, they were preparing for an invasion of their own. The war that had started as an extermination attempt had now shifted in humanity's favor. The Xarlok had underestimated them, believing them to be weak. But weakness was never the defining trait of humans. Their true strength lay in their ability to change, to grow, to evolve. And now, the galaxy was about to witness something no one had ever expected. Humanity was taking the war to the XR-Look homeworlds. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The war had raged across the stars for years. The XR-Look, once the undisputed rulers of the galaxy, had been brought to the brink of defeat by an enemy they had once considered weak. Humanity had evolved, transforming itself into a force that could not only resist them. The final phase of the war began when the human fleet breached Zarlok space. No species had ever dared to bring war to the heart of the Zarlok Empire. Their homeworlds had remained untouched for thousands of years, protected by fleets so massive that no enemy had ever even considered an attack. But humans were different. They had studied their enemy, learned every weakness, every flaw in their mighty defenses. And now, they were prepared to strike where it hurt the most. The attack began in silence. Human stealth ships, equipped with advanced cloaking technology, infiltrated the outer systems of the Zarlok Empire. They moved like shadows, bypassing patrols, disabling key satellites, cutting off communication networks. The XR-Look, who had always relied on their overwhelming strength to win wars, suddenly found themselves blinded. Their fleets, scattered across the Empire, were unable to coordinate. Their planetary defenses, once thought impenetrable, became vulnerable. And then, the real assault began. Human warships, now equipped with energy weapons stolen from the XR-Look themselves, descended upon the enemy homeworlds. They did not fight the way the XR-Look had expected. They struck fast, using precision attacks to cripple entire fleets before they could react. AI-driven drones flooded the battlefield, overwhelming Zarlok forces with sheer numbers. The Zarlok generals tried to organize a counterattack, but every move they made had already been predicted. Human intelligence networks had mapped their entire strategy before the battle had even begun. For the first time, the XR-Look were the ones caught in a trap. On the ground, things were even worse. The XR-Look had always prided themselves on their warrior caste massive, armored beings that could regenerate from almost any wound. But against the enhanced human soldiers, they were outmatched. The new generation of human warriors moved faster, struck harder, and had weapons specifically designed to kill Zarlok efficiently. Cities that had stood for thousands of years fell in days. Entire planets were abandoned as the XR-Look forces collapsed under the relentless assault. But the most terrifying moment for the Zarlok came when Earth's final weapon was unleashed. Humanity had never forgotten the suffering the XR-Look had caused, the billions of lives lost, the worlds burned. And now, they had built something that would ensure the war would end once and for all. Deep in the heart of the human fleet, a new type of ship was deployed, the Leviathan class. These warships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Built using both human ingenuity and stolen Zarlok technology, they were unstoppable. Each Leviathan carried enough firepower to wipe out entire planets. Their energy shields could withstand anything the XR-Look could throw at them. And worst of all, they were controlled not by human pilots, but by artificial intelligence networks that learned and adapted in real time. The XR-Look fleets had no chance. Within days, their strongest defenses had been obliterated. The final battle took place over Xaralak Prime, the capital of the Empire. It was here that the XR-Look had first risen, where they had built their civilization, where they had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. Now, it was burning. Human warships rained destruction upon the once great world, targeting military installations, command centers, and shipyards. The Look, once the most feared species in the galaxy, now found themselves on their knees. Their high command, the rulers of the Empire, sent out desperate messages for peace, for surrender. But humanity had not forgotten. There would be no mercy. The war had to end. In the final hours of the battle, as the last remnants of the XR-Look fleet were wiped out, humanity stood victorious. The species that had once been seen as nothing more than prey had conquered their greatest enemy. The galaxy would never be the same again. The age of the XR-Look was over. And now, a new power had risen. Humanity was here to stay. The war was over, and the galaxy had changed forever. The XR-Look, once the dominant force across the stars, had been utterly defeated. Their fleets were shattered, their homeworlds reduced to ruins, and their once mighty empire had crumbled into dust. No one had ever believed that a young species like humanity could accomplish such a feat. But the truth was now undeniable. Humans had risen to the top. The galaxy had always belonged to the strongest. For centuries, the Exarlock had ruled with an iron fist, their advanced technology and ruthless war tactics making them an unstoppable force. They had crushed countless civilizations, reducing entire planets to lifeless husks, wiping out species that resisted them without hesitation. No one had dared to challenge them. No one had even considered the possibility that they could be defeated. But then, they made a mistake. They attacked Earth.